Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon and watched the stars. His ship moved through space faster than light, heading toward a system called Kepler 442. This was humanity's first real trip to meet aliens. Jake felt nervous but excited. "Captain, we're getting close," said his second officer, Commander Luke Peters. Luke was Jake's best friend and had been with him for 10 years. "The alien ships should be just ahead." Jake nodded. Earth had sent them here after picking up radio signals from the system. The signals were clearly made by smart beings, not humans. This would be the first time humans talked to aliens face to face. "All crew, get ready," Jake said over the ship's speakers. "We're about to make history." Lieutenant Amy Collins checked her weapon at the security station. Amy was the ship's head of security and always stayed alert. She didn't trust easily, especially when meeting new people. Meeting aliens made her even more careful. The horizon dropped out of faster than light speed. In front of them sat 5 huge alien ships. Each ship was twice as big as the horizon and looked like giant silver needles. They were beautiful, but also scary. "Incoming message," said the communications officer. "They want to talk." "Put 'em on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen lit up with the image of an alien being. It looked like a tall, thin person, but with blue skin and 4 arms. Its head was larger than a human head, and it had big black eyes. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "I am High Commander Vextel of the Zephyrian Collective," the alien said. Its voice sounded calm, but cold. "You are the species called humans from the planet Earth." "Yes," Jake replied. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. We come in peace. We want to be friends with your people." No. Vextal made a noise that might have been laughter, but it didn't sound happy. "Friends? We shall see. You will come aboard our ship. We must learn about your species." Jake felt worried, but knew this was why they came here. "We'll send a small team over." An hour later, Jake, Luke, Amy, and Dr. Elena Rodriguez floated in spacesuits toward the alien ship. Elena was Earth's best scientist for studying aliens. She carried equipment to learn about the Zephyrians. The alien ship's inside was clean and white. Everything looked perfect, like no one had ever made a mess. The gravity felt lighter than Earth's. The Zephyrians moved slowly and carefully. It's like they were afraid of getting hurt. High Commander Vextal met them in a large room. With him were 20 other Zephyrians, all wearing the same silver uniforms. They all looked the same to human eyes. "Sit," Vextal said, pointing to chairs that were too tall for humans. Jake sat down awkwardly. "We're happy to meet you. Humans have dreamed of this day for a long time." "Tell us about your world," Vextal said. "What is this planet Earth like?" Lena stepped forward. She had prepared for this question. "Earth is a beautiful world with blue oceans and green lands. We have many different animals and plants. The weather changes with the seasons." One of the other Zephyrians whispered something to Vextal. The High Commander's big black eyes got bigger. "Your world has dangerous weather?" Vextal asked. Alina said, "We have storms, earthquakes, floods. But that's normal for us." More whispering. The Zephyrians looked upset. "What about the animals?" Another Zephyrian asked. "Are they aggressive?" Alina smiled. "Some are. We have lions, tigers, sharks, bears. They're predators. But we've learned to live with them." The room went very quiet. All the Zephyrians stared at the humans with what looked like fear. Vextal stood up quickly. "Your world is a Class 12 death world," he said, his voice shaking. "Only the most dangerous species can survive on such planets. You are predators." Jake didn't understand why this was bad. "We're not dangerous. We're peaceful explorers." "Peaceful," Vextal pointed at Amy. "Then why does that one carry weapons?" Amy's hand had moved to her gun without thinking. It was just a habit when she felt nervous, but to the Zephyrians it looked like a threat. "Wait," Jake said, standing up. "This is a misunderstanding." But the Zephyrians were already moving. Alarms started ringing on their ship. Red lights flashed everywhere. Deathworld predators on board. Someone shouted in the alien language. "Security alert." Zephyrian soldiers ran into the room carrying strange weapons that glowed blue. They pointed them at the humans. You will be captured for study, Vextel said. Your species is too dangerous to be allowed free in the galaxy. Amy pulled out her gun. Captain, we need to go now. Fighting broke out in the perfect white room. The humans found that the Zephyrians were weak and slow. Amy's bullets went right through their thin armor. But there were too many of them, Luke. Shh, Jake shouted as his friend went down under a pile of alien soldiers. Go, Luke yelled back. Get back to Earth. Warn them. Jake, Amy, and Alina fought their way to the airlock. They jumped into space and used their suit rockets to get back to the horizon. Behind them, Luke was captured. Get us out of here, Jake ordered as soon as they were back on board. The horizon jumped to faster than light speed just as more alien ships arrived. They barely escaped. During the long trip back to Earth, Alina studied the alien technology they had seen.
Ow.
What she learned scared her. Captain, she said, finding Jake in his quarters. The Zephyrians rule over 100 worlds. They have trillions of people, and they think we're monsters. Jake looked out at the stars. How many ships do they have? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Alina sat down, but there's something else. They're weak, Jake. They've never had to fight for anything. Their worlds are all safe and perfect. They don't know what real danger is. And we do? Alina nodded. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight or die. They learned to hide and be safe. When they reached Earth, Jake went straight to Admiral Kate Sullivan at Earth Defense Command. Kate was a tough woman who had served in Earth's Space Navy for 30 years. Admiral Jake said, "We have a problem." He told her everything. About the Zephyrians, about their fear of humans, about Luke being captured. When he finished, Kate was quiet for a long time. "So they think we're dangerous because we come from a dangerous world," she finally said. "Yes, and they're coming to wipe us out before we can hurt anyone." Kate looked at the reports Alina had written. She read about Zephyrian technology, their huge empire, their billions of soldiers. "How long do we have?" Kate asked. "Maybe a year? Maybe less." Kate stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth looked peaceful and blue. People were going about their normal lives not knowing that war was coming. "You know what, Jake?" Kate said. "Maybe they're right to be scared of us." "What do you mean?" Kate turned around with a hard smile. "They want to see what a Deathworld species can do? We'll show them. Call the president. Call the UN. It's time for Earth to go to war." Within days, every government on Earth knew the truth. The aliens were coming to destroy humanity. Earth's leaders held emergency meetings. They argued and shouted, but in the end, they all agreed on one thing. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the cameras and spoke to the whole world. "People of Earth," she said, "we are not alone in the universe, and we are not welcome. An alien empire has decided that we are too dangerous to live. They are coming to kill us all." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "They call us Deathworlders. They think we're monsters because we survived on a world that made us strong. Well, if they want to see what monsters can do, we'll give them a show they'll never forget. This is not just a war for our survival. This is a war to prove that being born on a dangerous world doesn't make you evil. It makes you strong. And strength is what wins wars." The message went out to every human on Earth and in the colonies. The response was immediate and clear. Humanity was ready to fight. 6 months after Captain Jake Morrison returned from his meeting with the aliens, Earth looked like a different world. Every factory that once made cars now made weapons. Every shipyard that built cargo vessels now built warships. The whole planet had become a giant military base. Colonel Rick Barnes floated in zero gravity aboard the space station, Omega 27, watching his soldiers train. Rick had been chosen to lead Earth's first space fighting force. These men and women were learning to fight in the emptiness between stars. Again, Rick shouted as his soldiers practiced boarding an enemy ship. "Move faster. In real combat, you won't get a second chance." The soldiers moved through the fake alien ship, clearing each room. They were getting better every day. Unlike the aliens, humans seemed to be natural fighters in zero gravity. They could twist and turn and fight in any direction. Rick watched. Sergeant Tony Walsh lead his team through the exercise. Tony was a tough Marine who had fought in Earth's last war. He understood that fighting aliens would be different from fighting humans. Colonel Tony said after the exercise, "The men are ready. When do we get to hit back at these blue-skinned bastards?" Rick smiled. "Soon, Tony. Very soon." On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the new war room deep under the Rocky Mountains. Giant screens showed the solar system and all the ships moving through it. Earth now had more warships than ever before in human history. "Admiral," said her aide, Captain Lisa Carter, "the alien fleet has been spotted. 200 ships heading straight for us." Kate nodded. She had been expecting this. Aliens were coming to finish what they started, but Earth was ready for them. "How long until they get here?" Kate asked. 3 days, Lisa replied. Kate looked at the tactical display. Earth's defenses were strong, but the aliens still had more ships. This would be humanity's first real test. "I'll send the order," Kate said. "All ships to battle stations. And send a message to Colonel Barnes. It's time for his people to earn their pay." In space near the moon, the alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. High Commander Vextel stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue world. Ahead, Earth looked so peaceful from here. It was hard to believe such a dangerous species lived there. "War leader," said one of his officers, "we detect human ships moving to intercept us." Vextal looked at the tactical display. The humans had maybe 50 ships compared to his 200. "It would be an easy victory. They dare to challenge us," Vextal said. "These Deathworld animals have no idea what they face. Begin the attack." The alien ships moved forward in perfect formation. Everything was planned and organized, just like the Zephyrians preferred. It would destroy the human ships first, then bomb the planet until nothing lived. But as they got closer to Earth, strange things started happening. The human ships didn't stay in neat formations. They spread out and moved in ways that looked random. Some hid behind asteroids. Others dove close to the moon, using its gravity to change direction quickly. "What are they doing?" asked one of Vextal's officers. "This is not proper battle tactics." Vextal frowned. The humans were not fighting the way civilized species were supposed to fight. They were acting like wild animals. Colonel Rick Barnes watched the alien fleet approach from his command ship, the UES Retribution. Captain Lisa Carter stood beside him on the bridge. Lisa was one of Earth's best ship commanders, and Rick was glad to have her with him. "They're coming straight at us," Lisa said. "Just like we hoped they would." Rick smiled. The aliens were doing exactly what Earth's military planners had predicted. They were fighting like a civilized species that had never faced a real enemy. "All ships," Rick said into his communicator. "Execute Plan Chaos." The human fleet suddenly broke apart. Ships that had been together scattered in all directions. Some accelerated toward the aliens at full speed. Others turned and ran away. A few seemed to just disappear. On the alien flagship, confusion spread through the bridge crew. "Where did they go?" someone asked. "Half their ships just vanished?" "Impossible," Vextal said. "Ships cannot just disappear." But the humans had learned to use the asteroids and space debris as hiding spots. They turned off their engines and drifted like rocks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The first surprise came when 3 human ships suddenly appeared behind the alien formation. They had been hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid, and now they attacked the alien ships from behind. Captain Lisa Carter commanded one of these ships. Her vessel, the UES Retribution, was smaller than the alien ships, but much faster. Dove straight at the alien flagship. "Fire everything," Lisa ordered. The Retribution's weapons lit up space. Human missiles and laser beams struck the alien ship's shields. The aliens had better shields than humans, but they had never faced an enemy that attacked so aggressively. On the alien flagship, alarms were ringing everywhere. "Damage report," Vextal shouted. "Shields at 60%, came the reply. "Are they hitting us so hard with such small ships?" Vextal didn't understand. The human ships were tiny compared to his vessels. They should not be able to cause such damage, but somehow they were. The answer was simple. Human weapons were designed for war. Alien weapons were designed to scare peaceful species into surrendering. Zephyrians had not fought a real war in thousands of years. The battle became even stranger when Sergeant Tony Walsh's Marines did something no civilized species had ever tried. They launched themselves from their ships in spacesuits and flew toward the alien vessels. "What are those crazy humans doing now?" asked an alien officer. They were about to find out. Tony and his men landed on the hull of an alien ship and began cutting through it with laser torches. Within minutes, they had made a hole and were inside the enemy vessel. The aliens inside had never seen anything like it. Humans in spacesuits were running through their ship, shooting at everything that moved. The alien crew panicked and ran. "They're inside our ship," someone screamed over the radio. "The Deathworlders are inside." Tony smiled as he and his men took control of the alien vessel. The aliens were so scared they barely fought back. These creatures had never learned to fight when they were afraid. "Ship secured," Tony reported to Colonel Barnes. "These aliens are softer than I thought." Back on Earth, factory supervisor Maria Santos watched her workers build the 1,000th missile of the day. Maria had been making cars 6 months ago. Now she was making weapons of war. "Faster," she called to her team. "Our boys up there need everything we can send them." The workers moved quickly. They knew their friends and family were fighting in space right now. Every missile they made might save a human life. In his laboratory, Dr. Ben Parker worked on captured alien technology. Ben was Earth's smartest scientist. Benny had been studying the alien weapons they had brought back from the first meeting. "Interesting," Ben said to his assistant. "Their weapons are very advanced, but they're not designed to kill quickly. They're made to disable and capture." This told Ben something important about the aliens. They were not used to fighting enemies who fought back. They conquered by scaring their enemies, not by destroying them. Ben began working on new human weapons. If the aliens were not used to real violence, he would give them more violence than they could handle. The space battle continued for 6 hours. The aliens had more ships, but the humans fought in ways that confused and scared them. Human ships would ram alien vessels if they ran out of ammunition. Human Marines would blow up their own ships to damage enemy vessels nearby. "They're insane," Vextall shouted as he watched another human ship explode right next to his flagship. "What kind of species destroys itself to hurt the enemy?" "The kind that evolved on a death world, where every day was a fight to survive." By the end of the battle, the aliens had lost 60 ships. The humans had lost 30. But more importantly, the aliens had learned something that terrified them. The humans were not just dangerous because they came from a dangerous world. They were dangerous because they enjoyed fighting. They were good at it. They were willing to die to win. As the alien fleet retreated, Vextall sent a message back to the Zephyrian homeworlds. "The humans are more dangerous than we thought," he reported. "They fight like animals, but they think like soldiers. They use tactics we have never seen, and they are not afraid to die." The response from the Zephyrian leadership was immediate and clear. "You have failed, Vextall. We are sending the Grand Fleet. 10,000 ships will turn the human world into dust." On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the alien fleet retreat and smiled. Humanity had won its first battle against the aliens. But she knew this was just the beginning. "Send a message to all human colonies," she ordered. "Tell them we won the first round. But the real war is just starting." Captain Jake Morrison, who had started this whole war with his diplomatic mission, now commanded a battle group of 20 ships. He looked out at the stars and thought about his friend Luke, still captured by the aliens. "We're coming for you, Luke," he said quietly, "and we're bringing hell with us." Dr. Alina Rodriguez continued studying the aliens from her laboratory on Earth. She had learned something important during the battle. The aliens were not evil. They were just scared. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten how to deal with a real threat. But being scared made them dangerous. Scared people did terrible things to protect themselves. The aliens had thousands of ships and trillions of soldiers. Admiral Alina reported to Kate Sullivan, "The aliens are going to bring everything. They have this next attack will be bigger than anything we've ever faced." Kate nodded. "Then we better get ready. How long do we have? Maybe a year? Maybe less." Kate looked out at Earth, so beautiful and blue. Soon it would be under attack by the largest fleet in the galaxy. But humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They would survive this too. 1 year, she said. That's enough time. To show these aliens what happens when you threaten a death world species, around the solar system, human ships patrolled the darkness. On Earth, factories worked day and night to build weapons. In secret laboratories, scientists developed new ways to fight. Humanity was preparing for total war. And when the aliens came back, they would find that Earth had become the most dangerous place in the galaxy. 1 year after the first battle, Earth was no longer just defending itself. Admiral Carl Thompson stood on the bridge of humanity's newest and biggest warship, the UES Indomitable. Behind him flew 49 other human ships, heading toward the alien stronghold at Proxima Centauri. Carl was a veteran of Earth's old space navy, but he had never commanded a fleet this large. The mission was simple but dangerous. Attack the alien base and show them that humans could fight anywhere in the galaxy. Admiral said his communications officer, "We're getting close to the target system." Carl nodded. Intelligence reports said the aliens had built a huge military base around Proxima Centauri B. They were using it to prepare for another attack on Earth. Carl's job was to destroy that base before they could launch. "All ships, prepare for combat," Carl ordered. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today. We're fighting for every species these aliens have enslaved." Commander Nina Adams sat in the cockpit of her fighter, leading Ghost Squadron toward the enemy system. Nina had been Earth's best pilot even before the war started. Now, she was about to become the first human to fight aliens in deep space. "Ghost leader to all pilots," Nina said into her radio. "Stay close and watch each other's backs. Know what these aliens have waiting for us." Her squadron of 12 fighters followed her toward the alien base. The fighters were small and fast. It's designed to get in close where the big alien ships couldn't hit them easily. As the human fleet approached Proxima Centauri, they saw what they were up against. The alien base was enormous, built on and around a small planet. Dozens of alien ships patrolled the area, and weapon platforms covered the planet's surface. "My God," whispered Carl's tactical officer. "That thing is huge." Carl studied the tactical display. The alien base was bigger than anything humans had ever built. But size wasn't everything. Earth's military had learned that the hard way. "Launch the fighters," Carl ordered. "All ships, begin the attack." The human fleet split into 3 groups. Carl led the main force straight at the alien base. 2 smaller groups swung wide to attack from the sides. It was a classic human tactic. Hit them from everywhere at once. The aliens responded exactly. As expected, their ships moved into perfect defensive formations and began firing in organized patterns. Everything was neat and orderly, just like they preferred. But the humans didn't fight neat and orderly battles. Nina's fighters dove straight into the middle of the alien formation. Human pilots had trained in Earth's atmosphere, where the weather could change in seconds and mountains could appear out of nowhere. Flying through a formation of alien ships was easy compared to flying through a thunderstorm. "Ghost 2, you've got 3 bogeys on your tail," Nina called to one of her pilots. "I see them," came the reply. "Watch this." The human pilot suddenly dove toward the planet's surface, flying so close to the ground that his fighter's belly almost touched the rocks. The alien fighters following him couldn't match this crazy maneuver and crashed into the planet. "Nice. Flying Ghost 2, Nina said with a grin. This was the difference between human and alien pilots. Humans had learned to fly in chaos. Aliens had learned to fly in perfect conditions. When things got messy, humans were better. The main battle was going well for the human fleet. Admiral Carl Thompson's ships were tearing through the alien defenses. The aliens had more firepower, but they couldn't adapt when their careful plans fell apart. Reported the tactical officer. "The enemy is pulling back to the planet's surface. They're setting up in the mountains." Carl smiled. The aliens thought they could hide on the planet and make the humans come to them? They didn't understand that humans actually liked fighting on planets. "Especially dangerous planets. Send word to General Paul Mitchell," Carl ordered. "Tell him it's time for the ground assault." General Paul Mitchell commanded the Terran Expeditionary Force, humanity's first army designed to fight on alien worlds. Paul had been a soldier for 20 years, fighting in deserts, jungles, mountains on Earth. Fighting on an alien planet would be just another day at the office. "Load up, Marines," Paul shouted to his troops. "We're going to show these aliens what ground combat looks like." The human landing ships descended through the planet's atmosphere like meteors. The alien world was hot and covered with sharp rocks that could cut through metal. The air was thin and hard to breathe. It was exactly the kind of place that would kill most species. But humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. A little heat and some sharp rocks weren't going to stop them. Corporal Dan Foster was one of the first Marines to hit the ground. Dan had grown up in the mountains of Colorado, where the air was thin and the rocks were sharp. This alien world felt like home to him, spread out. Don called to his squad, "Watch for alien snipers in those rocks." The alien defenders were well hidden in the mountains, but they had made one mistake. They thought the rough terrain would slow down the humans. Instead, it made them harder to hit. Dan's squad moved through the rocks like mountain goats, jumping from boulder to boulder. The aliens couldn't get a clear shot at them, but the humans could see the aliens perfectly. "Hit one," Dan said, taking down an alien sniper with a single shot. "These guys really don't know how to use cover." The battle for the planet lasted 6 hours. The aliens had better weapons and stronger positions, but they couldn't match human determination. When human Marines got pinned down by enemy fire, they didn't retreat. They found another way around. The turning point came when Dan Foster's squad got trapped in a damaged section of the alien base. 200 alien soldiers surrounded them, and they had no way out. "Corporal," said one of Dan's men, "we're outnumbered. 40-1. Don checked his ammunition. They had enough for maybe 10 minutes of fighting. After that, they would have to use their bare hands. "So," Dan said with a grin, "we're humans. Being outnumbered is what we do best." The aliens attacked. The trapped humans expecting easy victory. Instead, they found 6 humans who refused to give up. Dan's squad fought like cornered wolves, using every trick they had learned on Earth's dangerous mountains. They used broken pipes as clubs. They threw rocks like grenades. When their ammunition ran out, they fought with knives and fists. Aliens had never seen anything like it. For 6 hours, 6 humans held off 200 aliens. By the end, the aliens were too scared to attack anymore. They had never faced an enemy that got more dangerous when it was hurt. "The Deathworlders are unkillable," one alien soldier whispered to another. "They fight even when they should be dead." Word of the humans' refusal to surrender spread through the alien forces. Morale began to collapse. An enemy that wouldn't admit defeat. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Captain Emma Wright was listening to alien radio communications. Emma spoke several alien languages and could understand what the enemy was saying to each other. What she heard made her smile. "Admiral Sullivan," Emma reported, "the aliens are calling us the unkillable ones. They're scared of us." "Admiral Kate." Sullivan read Emma's report with interest. Fear was a weapon, and the humans were using it well. "What else are they saying?" Kate asked. "They don't understand why we fight so hard," Emma replied. "They keep asking each other how we can be so dangerous if we're supposed to be a peaceful species." Kate laughed. "Maybe because we're not peaceful, we're just polite." Dr. Alex Turner was working on something special in his laboratory. Alex was a psychologist who studied how people thought and acted. He had been given a special job, figure out how to scare the aliens even more. "Fear is a powerful weapon," Alex told his team. "The aliens are already afraid of us. We need to make that fear work for us." Alex's team developed what they called the Terror Protocol. It was a collection of psychological warfare tactics designed to break alien morale without firing a shot. The first part was simple: fake distress signals. Human ships would broadcast calls for help, and when alien ships came to investigate, they would find traps waiting for them. The second part was recordings of human war cries played at full volume. Two aliens who had never heard sounds of violence. The noise was terrifying. The third part was the most effective, pictures of Earth's most dangerous animals. An alien saw images of lions, sharks, and grizzly bears. They understood what kind of world had created humans. "This is brilliant," Admiral Sullivan said when she saw Alex's work. "We're not just fighting their ships, we're fighting their minds." The attack on Proxima Centauri succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The alien base was destroyed. 3 alien worlds were captured and dozens of enslaved species were freed. But the real victory was psychological. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrian Collective had been defeated by a smaller force. The news spread through their empire like wildfire. The invincible aliens had been beaten by a handful of Deathworld savages. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding his own battle group, intercepted an alien communication that made his blood run cold. "Admiral," he reported to Kate Sullivan, "we've got a problem. The aliens are calling in their grand fleet, 10,000 ships heading straight for Earth." Kate looked at the intelligence report. 10,000 ships was the largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy. The aliens were bringing everything they had to destroy humanity once and for all. "How long do we have?" she asked. 6 months, Jake replied. "Maybe less." Kate stood up and walked to the window of her office. Outside, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful, but in 6 months, it would be under attack by a force that could destroy planets. "Then we better use those 6 months well," she said. "Word to every human colony, every ship, every soldier. Tell them the real war is about to begin." Dr. Elena Rodriguez was studying the captured alien prisoners when she made a disturbing discovery. The aliens weren't just planning to attack Earth, they were planning to wipe out every human in the galaxy. "Admiral," she reported, "the aliens have orders to destroy all human colonies. They're not just coming for Earth, they want to make sure humanity never spreads to other worlds." Kate nodded grimly. "Then we better make sure they don't succeed." Around the galaxy, other species watched the war between humans and aliens with great interest. Many of them had been conquered by the Zephyrians long ago. They had given up hope of ever being free. But now, for the first time, someone was fighting, back and winning. On the world of Kepler, 438b. A species called the Hegemony Liberation Front held a secret meeting. They had been planning rebellion for years, but never had the courage to act. "The humans are showing us it can be done," said their leader. "If Deathworlders can defeat the Collective, maybe we can too." Messages began passing between enslaved species throughout the galaxy. The human rebellion was inspiring others to fight. For their freedom, back on Earth, preparations for the final battle were underway. Every shipyard was working day and night. Every factory was producing weapons. Every person on the planet was preparing for war. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the cameras one more time to address humanity. "People of Earth," she said, "the enemy is coming with everything they have. 10,000 ships carrying 1 trillion soldiers. They think they can overwhelm us with numbers." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "They're about to learn that it's not about how many ships you have. It's about how hard you're willing to fight. Nobody fights harder than a human." With their back against the wall, in 6 months, they'll be here. And when they arrive, they'll find that Earth has become something they never expected. Not just a fortress, but a weapon. And that weapon is pointed straight at them. The message. It was clear, humanity was ready for total war. The aliens wanted to see what Deathworld species could do when pushed too far. They were about to find out. The Zephyrian Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark cloud covering the stars. 10,000 ships stretched across space in perfect formation. Supreme War Hierarch Kethvel stood on the bridge of the massive flagship, looking at the small blue planet that had caused so much trouble. At last Kethvel said to his officers, "Today we end the Deathworlder threat forever." The alien fleet was the largest military force ever assembled, carried 1 trillion soldiers, planet-killer weapons, and enough firepower to turn worlds into dust. The aliens had brought everything they had to make sure humanity could never threaten them again. But as they moved deeper into the solar system, they began to notice strange things. Or Hierarch, reported the sensor officer, were detecting unusual activity throughout this system. Kethvel looked at the tactical display. What he saw confused him. The entire solar system seemed to be moving. Asteroids were changing course. Space stations were floating where there should be empty space. Even the planets seemed different. What have these Deathworlders done? He wondered aloud. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the alien fleet approach from her command center on the orbital fortress Bastion Prime. Kate had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. Earth's entire solar system had been turned into the galaxy's largest weapon, Admiral reported. Her tactical officer. Enemy fleet has crossed the outer marker. They're heading straight for Earth. Kate smiled. Perfect. Let them come deeper. The farther they get from open space, the more dangerous it becomes for them. Captain Steve Rogers commanded the Asteroid Belt Defense Force. Steve had been a mining engineer before the war, but now he was in charge of the solar system's most clever defense system. All stations, prepare for contact, Steve said into his communicator. Remember, wait until they're right in the middle of us. The human engineers had spent 2 years turning the asteroid belt into a trap. What looked like ordinary space rocks were actually weapons platforms. Some had missile launchers hidden inside. Others had been turned into giant bombs. Few were actually piloted ships disguised as asteroids. The alien fleet moved through the asteroid belt without suspicion. To them, it was just a field of space debris to be avoided. They had no idea that hundreds of human soldiers were hiding in those rocks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Now, Steve ordered. The asteroid belt came alive. The rocks that had been floating peacefully suddenly sprouted weapons and began firing. Missiles shot out from every direction. Hidden ships revealed themselves and attacked the alien formation. The aliens had never seen anything like it. They were being attacked by the solar system itself. Impossible, shouted an alien commander. Rocks cannot fight. But these weren't just rocks anymore. They were fortresses built by a species that had learned to use every advantage they could find. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that could hide anywhere and attack from everywhere. On Mars, Major Claire White prepared her defenders for the first alien ground assault. Claire had been a geologist before the war, studying Mars for possible colonization. Now she was using that knowledge to turn the red planet into a death trap. They're coming down in the southern hemisphere, reported her communications officer. Looks like a full division. Claire nodded. The aliens were trying to capture Mars as a base for attacking Earth. They thought the red planet would be easy to take because it was mostly empty desert. They were wrong. All units, execute Plan Sandstorm, Claire ordered. The human defenders on Mars had learned to use the planet's harsh environment as a weapon. When the alien ships landed, they found themselves in the middle of a dust storm that had been artificially created by human weather machines. The aliens couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction. Their advanced sensors were useless in the swirling dust. But the humans had trained to fight in these conditions. They knew Mars like their own backyard. Claire's soldiers attacked the confused aliens from all directions. They appeared out of the dust storm, fired their weapons, and disappeared again before the aliens could fight back. "Where are they?" screamed an alien soldier. "They're like ghosts." The battle for Mars lasted 3 days. The aliens had better equipment and more soldiers, but they couldn't fight an enemy they couldn't see. In the end, they retreated back to their ships, leaving behind hundreds of dead and wounded. The siege continued for 8 months. The alien fleet surrounded Earth and its colonies, trying to starve humanity into surrender. But Earth's defenses were stronger than anyone had expected. Colonel Frank Davis commanded the human garrison on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. When alien forces tried to capture the ice moon, Frank showed them why humans were so dangerous. "Cut off from reinforcements?" Frank said, when his officers reported that alien ships had surrounded Europa. "Good, now we don't have to worry about hitting friendlies." Frank's troops had been preparing for this moment for 2 years. Europa's ice surface hid a network of tunnels and bunkers that connected the entire moon. The humans could move anywhere. Without being seen from space, when the aliens landed on Europa, they found what looked like an empty, frozen wasteland. But as soon as they set up their bases, the attacks began. Human soldiers would emerge from the ice itself, attack alien positions, and disappear back underground. The aliens couldn't follow them because the tunnel system was too complex and dangerous for outsiders to navigate. "How are they moving through solid ice?" demanded the alien commander. The answer was simple. Humans had learned to use Europa's environment against its enemies. They knew where the ice was weak, where the tunnels were safe, and how to travel. Quickly through the underground network, the alien siege of Europa failed completely. After weeks of fighting an enemy they couldn't catch, the aliens gave up and returned to their ships. But the real turning point came when Dr. Rachel Kim made a breakthrough in her laboratory on Earth. Rachel was humanity's best computer scientist. She had been studying captured alien technology for 2 years. "Admiral," she reported to Kate. "Sullivan, I've found their weakness." Rachel had discovered that the alien ships relied completely on automated computer systems. The aliens themselves were too slow and careful to react quickly in combat, so they let their computers do most of the fighting. "Their entire fleet is controlled by a central network," Rachel explained. "If we can get a virus into that network, we can shut down their whole fleet." The plan was dangerous. Someone would have to get close enough to the alien flagship to plant the virus directly into their computer system. It would be a suicide mission. Agent Owen Bell volunteered for the job. Owen was Earth's best infiltration specialist, trained to sneak into enemy territory and complete impossible missions. "I can do it," Owen told Admiral Sullivan, "but I'll need a distraction." The distraction came in the form of the largest space battle in human history. Every human ship in the solar system attacked the alien fleet at once, drawing their attention away from Owen's small infiltration craft. Owen piloted his tiny ship through the chaos of battle, dodging laser beams and missile explosions. His ship was so small that the alien sensors barely detected it. To them, it looked like just another piece of space debris. He managed to land his ship in the docking bay of the alien flagship. The aliens on board were so focused on the battle outside that they didn't notice one small human sneaking through there. Corridors. Owen made his way to the ship's computer core and planted Rachel's virus. The infection spread through the alien network like wildfire, shutting down weapons, engines, and life support systems throughout the fleet. "What's happening?" Kethful shouted as his flagship went dark around him. "Why aren't our systems responding?" The answer came from his chief technician, or hierarch. "We've been infected by some kind of computer virus. It's spreading through the entire fleet." Half the alien fleet was now floating helplessly in space. Their weapons were offline, their engines were dead, and their crews were trapped inside dark, cold ships. But the battle was far from over. The aliens still had 5,000 operational ships, and they were angry. The final confrontation came during the Battle of Earth's Moon. Colonel Sam Hayes led humanity's most elite fighting unit, the Death's Head Battalion, in a desperate boarding action against the remaining alien ships. Sam was a veteran of every major battle in the war. He had fought on asteroids, planets, and space stations. But this would be his most dangerous mission yet. "Listen up, Marines," Sam called to his troops as they prepared to board an alien battleship. "These aliens think they're better than us because they come from safe, peaceful worlds. Today we show them why dangerous worlds make better soldiers." The human Marines launched themselves through space toward the alien ship. They cut through the hull, laser torches, and poured into the vessel like a flood of violence. The aliens inside had never faced humans in close combat. They were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never learned to fight when they were scared. The humans, on the other hand, fought better when the odds were against them. Sam led his Marines through the alien ship, clearing each deck in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The aliens had advanced weapons, but in the narrow corridors of their own ship, those weapons were useless for Earth. Sam shouted as he fought his way toward the ship's bridge. For humanity, the alien crew panicked and ran. They had never faced an enemy that seemed to enjoy fighting. These Deathworlders were everything they had been taught to fear. Within hours, human Marines had captured a dozen alien ships. The crews surrendered rather than face the terrifying humans in close combat. Supreme War Hierarch Kethvel watched his great fleet fall apart around him. Half his ships were disabled by the human virus. The other half were being captured by human boarding parties. His great invasion was turning into a disaster. War Hierarch reported one of his officers. Our forces are requesting permission to retreat. Kethval stared at the tactical display. His fleet of 10,000 ships had been reduced to scattered groups of frightened survivors. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the largest military force in the galaxy. How? He whispered. How did they do this? The answer was everywhere around him. Humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. They had used asteroids as ships, planets as fortresses, and even space itself as a battlefield. But more than that, they had used their greatest advantage. They were not afraid to die for what they believed in. Send the retreat order, Kethvel said quietly. All ships withdraw from this cursed system. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the alien fleet retreat and felt a mixture of triumph and sadness. Humanity had won the greatest victory in its history. But the cost had been enormous. Thousands of human soldiers had died defending their world. Admiral, reported her communications officer, were receiving surrender requests from over 200 alien ships. They want to give up rather than continue fighting? Kate nodded. Accept their surrenders. Treat the prisoners well. We're not savages, no matter what they think of us. As the alien fleet limped away from Earth, messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for centuries were rising in rebellion. The human victory had inspired a galaxy-wide revolution. Admiral reported, Captain Emma Wright, we're getting reports of uprisings on over 50 alien worlds. The Zephyrian Empire is falling apart. Kate smiled. Humanity had not just defended itself. It had started a revolution that would free the entire galaxy. But she knew the war was not over yet. The aliens still had thousands of ships and trillions of soldiers. They would be back, and next time, they would be even more desperate and dangerous. Send word to all human forces, Kate ordered. We won this battle, but the war continues. For the final assault, the siege of Earth was over. But the real war was just beginning. The final phase of the war began. 6 months after the failed siege of Earth, President Jack Miller stood before the United Nations Assembly and spoke words that would echo through history. Fellow humans, he said, the aliens came to our home to destroy us. They failed. Now it's time to take the fight to them. President Miller authorized the Prometheus Protocol, humanity's total war doctrine. All limits on weapons and tactics were removed. Earth would use every advantage it had to end the alien threat forever. Admiral Ryan Clark commanded the Terran Revenge Fleet, humanity's largest military force ever assembled. 2,000 human ships prepared to strike at the heart of Zephyrian space. Ryan was a cold, calculating man who understood that sometimes you had to be cruel to be kind. All fleet commanders, Ryan said during the final briefing, remember that we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species the aliens have enslaved. Show no mercy to those who would enslave the galaxy. The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed and headed towards Zephyrian space. Their first target was the alien fortress world of Kepler 4-5 to B, where the Zephyrians were rebuilding their military. When the human fleet arrived, they found the alien world defended by 1,000 ships and orbital defense platforms. It should have been an impossible target to attack, but humanity was no longer the same species that had first met the aliens 3 years ago. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization built for war. All ships, Admiral Clark ordered, execute Plan Hellfire. The human attack was unlike anything the aliens had ever faced. Human ships didn't just attack the orbital defenses, they attacked the planet itself. Starkiller missiles struck the planet's surface, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Biological weapons were released into the atmosphere, making the air poisonous to alien life. Orbital bombardment turned cities into craters. Within hours, the alien fortress world was uninhabitable. The surviving aliens evacuated in panic, abandoning their military bases and weapon factories. "This is impossible," transmitted the alien commander as his forces retreated. "No civilized species fights like this." But humans were no longer trying to be civilized. They were trying to win. Colonel Beth Stone commanded the Psychological Operations Division, humanity's new weapon against alien morale. Beth understood that the best way to defeat an enemy was to make them too scared to fight. "Begin transmission," Beth ordered her technicians across the galaxy. Alien communication networks were flooded with recordings of human children singing nursery rhymes. To human ears, the songs were innocent and sweet. To alien ears, they were terrifying proof that even human offspring were raised in a culture of violence. The psychological effect was immediate. Alien soldiers who heard the recordings began deserting their posts. How could they fight an enemy whose children sang about violence and death? Even their young ones are warriors, whispered alien soldiers to each other. What hope do we have? On the ground, General Roy Baker led the human expeditionary forces from world to world, liberating alien slaves and destroying Zephyrian military bases. Roy had learned something important during the war. Humans were not the monsters the aliens thought they were. "Listen up, Marines," Roy told his troops before each battle. "We're not here to hurt innocent people. We're here to free them. Remember that." The human ground forces amazed the aliens with their combination of deadly efficiency and unexpected mercy. Human soldiers would fight with savage intensity against enemy troops, then immediately turn around and help wounded prisoners or protect alien civilians. This incomprehensible behavior confused and demoralized the Zephyrian forces even more than pure violence would have. They couldn't understand how the same soldiers could be both killers and healers. "They're savages who act like saints," reported one alien commander. "How do we fight an enemy like that?" The answer was simple. They, called after world, fell to human forces. Species that had been enslaved for centuries welcomed human liberators as heroes. The Zephyrian Empire began collapsing as rebellions broke out everywhere. Dr. Alex Turner's psychological warfare programs reached their peak when human forces captured alien communication centers and began broadcasting Earth's most dangerous animals to every screen in Zephyrian space. Images of lions hunting, sharks attacking, and grizzly bears fighting filled alien homes and military bases. The message was clear. This is what Earth was like, and this is what created humanity. The aliens finally understood what they were fighting. Humans weren't just another intelligent species. They were the apex predators of a world that had spent billions of years creating the perfect killers. Commander Ann Price led the human strike force toward the ultimate target, Zephyr Prime, the alien homeworld. Anne was one of Earth's most experienced space commanders, and she had been chosen for the most important mission in human history. "All ships," Anne said as they approached the alien capital system. "This is it. The war ends here." The Battle of Zephyr Prime was the largest space battle ever fought. 3,000 human ships faced 5,000 alien vessels in a final confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. But the aliens were no longer the confident empire that had first threatened Earth. Years of fighting humans had broken their spirit. They fought desperately, but without hope. The human fleet tore through the alien defenses like a sword through paper. Human ships that would have been destroyed earlier in the war now shrugged off alien weapons and kept fighting. "How are they so strong?" demanded the alien fleet commander. "Our weapons should be destroying them." The answer was evolution. Human ships and weapons had been constantly improved throughout the war. Every battle had taught humanity new lessons, and they had learned them quickly. The aliens, on the other hand, had remained the same. They were still using the same tactics and weapons they had used for thousands of years. They had never needed to change because they had never faced a real enemy. Until now, Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the final assault on the alien homeworld from her flagship, the UES Vengeance. Kate had been fighting this war from the beginning, and she wanted to be there when it ended. "All ground forces, begin the landing," Kate ordered. Human Marines descended on Zephyr Prime like avenging angels. But when they reached the surface, they found something unexpected. The alien capital was not a military fortress. It was a city full of families, children, and ordinary people who had never wanted to fight anyone. The aliens were not evil conquerors. They were just a species that had become addicted to easy victories. General Paul Mitchell, leading the ground assault, made a decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. All units, cease fire, he ordered. Protect civilian areas. We're here to end a war, not start a genocide. The human forces surrounded the alien government buildings, but did not attack civilian targets. They had come to defeat an empire, not slaughter innocents. Supreme War Hierarch Kethful. The alien leader who had led the attack on Earth found himself face to face with Admiral Kate Sullivan in his own command center. Why do you spare our civilians when we came to destroy yours? Kate looked at the broken alien leader and felt something she hadn't expected. Pity, because that's the difference between us, she said. You saw us as monsters because we came from a dangerous world. But dangerous worlds don't create monsters. They create survivors. And survivors know the difference between enemies and innocents. Kethful stared at the human admiral and finally understood what his people had been fighting. Humans weren't evil. They were just incredibly, terrifyingly good at war. We surrender, he said quietly. The Zephyrian collective surrenders unconditionally to humanity. The war was over. After 3 years of fighting, the galaxy's greatest empire had fallen to a single planet of Deathworld survivors. But Kate Sullivan took no joy in the victory. Too many people on both sides had died for her to celebrate. Send word to all human forces, she ordered. Cease all offensive operations. Begin humanitarian relief for alien civilians. We're not conquerors, we're liberators. The aftermath of the war changed the galaxy forever. Hundreds of species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians were suddenly free. Many of them looked to humanity for leadership, creating a new galactic confederation based on cooperation rather than conquest. Captain Jake Morrison, who had started the whole war with his diplomatic mission, now commanded humanity's first interstellar colony ship. As he watched Earth disappear behind him, he thought about how much everything had changed. 3 years ago, humans had been peaceful explorers looking for friends among the stars. Now they were the galaxy's most feared military force, respected and obeyed by species across 1,000 worlds. Captain, said his communications officer, we're getting requests from 12 different species asking for human protection from other threats. Jake sighed. Humanity had won the war, but victory came with a price. They were now responsible for protecting half the galaxy. Send replies to all of them, Jake said. Tell them the United Earth Fleet will consider their requests. But make it clear that we're not interested in building an empire. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's chief xenobiologist, was studying the long-term effects of the war. What she found worried her. Admiral, she reported to Kate Sullivan, we have a problem. Other species are starting to fear us the way the Zephyrians did. They see us as dangerous predators who could turn on them at any moment. Kate nodded. She had expected this. Humanity had saved the galaxy from tyranny, but in doing so, they had become the thing everyone feared, the apex predators of interstellar space. What do you recommend? Kate asked. We need to be very careful about how we use our power, Elena replied. The galaxy is watching us. If we act like conquerors, other species will unite against us the way they should have united against the Zephyrians, Kate understood. Humanity had become the galaxy's dominant species almost by accident. Now they had to learn how to use that power responsibly. The final scene of the war took place on Earth, where a memorial was built to honor all those who had died in the fighting. Human and alien names were carved side by side, recognizing that both species had lost people they loved. President Jack Miller spoke at the dedication ceremony. We did not choose this war, he said, but we chose how to fight it. We chose to remain human even when the galaxy tried to make us into monsters. We chose to protect the innocent even when it would have been easier to destroy everything. The aliens called us Deathworlders because we came from a dangerous planet. They were right, but they misunderstood what that meant. A dangerous world doesn't create killers, it creates protectors. People who understand that sometimes you have to fight to preserve peace. Today, humanity stands as the guardian of galactic freedom. It's a responsibility we never wanted but cannot refuse. We'll use our strength to protect the weak, our courage to defend the innocent, and our wisdom to prevent another war like this one. The Deathworlders have deployed, and the galaxy is safe. But we must never forget the price of that safety, or the responsibility that comes with it. As the ceremony ended, Jake Morrison stood looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping peace between hundreds of different species. Human colonies were being built on worlds that had never known freedom before. Humanity had become exactly what the aliens had feared, the galaxy's apex predators. But they had also become something the aliens had never expected, its protectors. The Deathworlders had deployed, and the galaxy would never be the same again. But perhaps Jake thought, as he watched the stars, that wasn't such a bad thing after all.